Hello everyone and welcome to ITLS Academy Empower the Youth. So today in this lecture we will going to understand what is the physiological and the survival of foodborne pathogen in various food systems. Okay, so let me tell you that this topic is very important because in this particular topic we will going to understand what is the survival process of any pathogen, means what are the factors that affects the microbial pathogens and their survival. So and we will also going to understand the basic issue that occurs in food when the pathogen is there in any particular food item, and how to avoid the pathogenic activity in any food item. So let us understand this with the help of an introduction and the definition. So since we all are aware that foodborne pathogen, they can exist in any raw or improperly processed or improperly handled food. Whenever I am saying the improperly processed food, so that simply means the food is not properly processed, means the processing of the food was done under the unhygienic condition, and the food is not handled properly. That simply means that food industries or the food processing unit is not abiding the regulatory aspect of the food system, that is they are not following the proper hygienic condition, they are not maintaining a environment that is free from pathogenic activity, or they are not focusing on the gmps, glps, even the different types of the regulatory aspect. Whenever I am saying gmp, that simply means the good manufacturing practices. glp, it is a good laboratory practices, or they are not abiding by the HACCP, that is hazard analysis critical control point. So in that particular situation where all these things are not maintained properly, then there are the high chances of foodborne pathogen that could exist in raw as well as the improper handled food. So, whether the pathogenic microorganism will be present in a sufficient number, and when the pathogenic microorganism, let's say bacteria, viruses, fungi, they are present in a sufficient amount, or you can say sufficient number, then they causes the foodborne diseases. Sometimes these diseases are curable, they are preventable, but many of the time when the disease get adverse, then it leads to a death of a person. So in yesterday's lecture I have given the you can say a data that annually how much death occur due to the pathogenic activities or the due to the foodborne diseases. And if there are six people, so annually among the six people one person died due to the foodborne illness. So you can refer to that lecture as well for the better understanding was what is the impact of foodborne diseases on human, and what is their impact, means the foodborne diseases ka impact on the economic of any of the country. Okay, so coming back to the thing that whenever there is a great number of pathogenic microorganisms, so they can cause disease or they produce toxins that simply depends upon the growth and the survival characteristics of particular microorganism, and on the condition to which these foods are exposed. So we all are aware that microorganism can best grow where the conditions or where the environment is unhygienic, where the environment has a high amount of moisture content. So in that particular area or environment, microorganism grows very well. So infectious bacteria, if I since we all are again aware that bacteria are of two types, harmful and beneficial bacteria. Here we are talking about the infectious bacteria. So infectious bacteria, when they are growing in any of the food product, they have a varied metabolic rate and the growth characteristics. So every microorganisms have their own or different metabolic rates from the other, as well as they have different growth characteristics, and they are mainly or largely affected by the nutrient composition and where they are actually stored, means how the food is stored, what is the nutrient composition. So on all these factors, the growth and metabolic rate of microorganism depends. And as told you that every microorganism, whether it's bacteria, fungi, viruses, okay, so every microorganism grow in their own environment, means every microorganisms have different characteristics, okay, for their growth, and they varied from each other in terms of metabolic rate and their growth characteristics. So many bacteria, they are capable of growing or survival under a very extreme condition, okay, of food processing and storage. That is, some bacteria can grow at a very low temperature, some bacteria can survive at a very high temperature, some bacteria needs high salt content for their growth, some bacteria needs low pH for their growth. So although the toxigenic bacteria, they generally require a very specific growth condition for toxin production. So as already told you that every or microorganism, whether it's bacteria, viruses, or any other microorganisms, so they have their own environment for their growth. Okay, that is the reason I have mentioned this here, that many bacteria, they are capable of growing or they are capable of surviving under the extreme condition. Extreme condition means some can survive at low temperature, some can survive at high temperature, even they can also survive high salt content, where the concentration of the salt are very high, so bacteria can grow very well in those conditions. Now, the pathogenic bacteria, they have varied heat resistance and some produce spore. So, you must be aware of this line that some bacteria, the pathogenic bacteria, they have a heat resistance, and under the very extreme condition, they produces spore, which increases their heat resistance and their ability to survive at an extreme condition. For example, if the temperature is so high, means so like above 37 degree, like 42, 52, can you imagine a bit at a very extreme condition. So in this particular stage where the temperatures are so high or the conditions are so extreme, some bacteria, that is a pathogenic bacteria, can grow in that environment also. Then how they can grow? They produces spore. So these spore, what they do, I'm just marking it. So what these spore do? So these spore increases their heat resistance. So basically spores, what they are doing, though they are helping the bacteria in increasing their heat resistance, and they are also help them to survive the extreme condition. Okay, although it is a case with pathogenic bacteria, but although the viruses and parasites do not grow in food product, they are capable of surviving at sufficient number to cause infection. So this is very important in examination or in interviews. They can ask you how the bacteria, how the bacteria can grow at a very extreme condition, or what active ability does bacteria hold in themselves to survive at a very extreme condition. So the answer is simple, that they produces spore, and this particular spore, it increases their heat resistance and it increases their ability to survive extreme condition. So this is very important. Now coming to the next, that is the background and historical significance. So when there is an efficient food safety and sanitization system have evolved through scientifically advanced food processing and food safety surveillance technology. So nowadays, since people are becoming aware, people are becoming so conscious, and to meet the consumer demand, different food industries are focusing on their sanitization system. They are focusing on the efficient food safety of the food, and they are using more advanced food processing and food safety surveillance technology. Why they are using? Just to avoid the contamination, just to produce a food that is free from any sort of microbial contamination, to increase their food quality so that they can meet the consumer demand. So how you can then, so changing lifestyles has also created a demand of for a more convenient, as already told you. There are items that need a shelf stable, means they should have large or longer shelf life, and there are products that are ready to eat product. So in the ready to eat foods items, the only challenge is to extend their shelf life, to maintain their stability of the shelf life. So to achieve that, nowadays companies or the food industries, they have more focus on the advanced food processing, and they have the food safety surveillance technology. Means if you can decrease, if you can manage the, you can say, different pathogenic activity, then ultimately your food shelf life stability can also maintain. You can extend the shelf life, and the product can be used for a longer period of time. So the microbial flora of food product includes those microorganisms that are associated with raw materials, those acquired from the food handling process, those acquired from food processing and preservation technique treatments, and also that multiply during storage. So see, when the food is in the raw stage, let us take an example to understand this. If you purchase a milk from the market, okay, so the raw milk has more activity of microorganism than a boiled or pasteurized milk have. So it is very important for the industries to sorry, it is always said that the microorganism activity or the microbial activity is more in the raw food item. Let us again take another example to understand that. If you have a raw meat, if you have a raw meat, so the raw meat have the high chances, or a very high chances of microorganism activity than a cooked meat, because at certain degree temperature, or in the cooking of the meat, you use different types of preservatives like salt, like oil. You cook meat at a high temperature, so that kills the microorganism, or you can say that inactivate the microorganism. So that is the reason the unprocessed food or the raw food materials have more activities of a microorganism, or in simple language you can say microorganisms are associated with raw materials and a food item that is mishandled. Here one thing to understand, that it is very important again, that because microorganisms are highly adaptable. So if here I am just mentioning their characteristics. So if you see the characteristics, the first characteristics of the microorganisms or the organisms are, they are highly adaptable. They can easily adapt a new environment for their growth. So technological advance, although lowering the total level of the microbial contamination that are found in food, they may also select or alter the microbial flora and create a new problem. So see, nowadays, as the population is increasing, there is a more and more demand of food. So to meet the demand and to avoid the contamination, different industries are using different advanced technology. But still also the microbial contamination is again the serious problem that every industry is facing. So such advance have includes the improved refrigeration. So to avoid these types of microbial contamination, to avoid the you can say the microbial contamination, what industries are doing, so they are using the more and more advanced refrigeration technique. They are using modified atmospheric packaging for packaging of the food items. They are using the vacuum sealing, and they are doing the microwave cooking. So because that I have mentioned that improved refrigeration, modified atmospheric packaging, and vacuum cleaning, or you can say the microwave cooking, so all these things, they avoid the microbial contamination. They inactivate, they have the tendency to inactivate or the microbial contamination. So it is very important for every industries to adapt the advanced technology. Why advanced technology? Because the traditional in traditional method, microorganism can still find their way for their survival. So there is an against the product loss. Since if the product is lost, or so the company also faces the economic loss or the brand name loss. So to avoid those things, the advanced technologies are being used by the industries, so that they can help in preserving the food item. They can help the food item in having the inactivation of microorganism. So in this way, sorry, okay, you can avoid the contamination of food by using the advanced technology. Now if we talk about the agricultural practices, so the agriculture practices may also change the microbial flora. As we all know that, as with the very evident of more centralization, more crowding of animals in feedlots, and transit of the slaughter altering the feeding practices, and subtherapeutic antibiotic and drug use, medical antibiotics and drug may also play a very important role in evolution of resistant strain of pathogen. Now comes the scientific basis and implications. So there are the majority of the pathogen that contaminate the food product. Okay, so different pathogens, they have the ability, or they have the capability to contaminate the food product, and they are natural inhabitants of nature, soil, and plants and animals. So, some of the foods of plant and animal origin play a very important role in microbial growth. So, the ability of microorganism to grow or to multiply in such food depends on the food environment. So, here the very important thing to discuss, that there are certain factors that play a very important role in microbial growth. Like the factors are intrinsic factor and extrinsic factors, and implicit factors of food and various food processing method respectively play a role in microbial growth. And these factors that determines the microbial growth in food and specific metabolic pathway they use to generate energy and metabolic byproducts. So what are they? So these factors are very very important. So there are certain intrinsic factors. Intrinsic factor is also known as internal factors, and the second is the extrinsic factor, that includes the external factors. Then there is a processing factor and implicit factor. But among these, For these factors are, again I must say that these are very important, the intrinsic and extrinsic factors. So coming to the internal factors or the intrinsic factors, the first factor that play or that affects the growth of microorganisms in food is the pH. Then is your water activity, then is the oxidation reduction potential, then it is a nutrient content, then it is a antimicrobial constituents, and the last one is a biological structure. Now coming to the extrinsic factors means external factor, so depends upon the temperature of the storage, means what is the storage of temperature, sorry, storage temperature, then the relative humidity RH, gases in the environment, and the next is your processing factor and your implicit factors. So the processing factor again includes the how the food product is being washed, how the raw material is washed, and what are their slicing techniques, how they are packaged, so they all comes under the heading of the processing factors. Then comes your implicit factors. Implicit factor generally includes the specific growth rate, mutualization in the food items, so that includes that. So in this particular lecture we will going to understand the intrinsic factor. So the first is the pH. Okay, so pH in says that mold and yeast, different types of mold and yeast, they grow at a low pH. Okay, so they for mold and for the yeast, they require a very low pH as compared to bacteria and the gram negative bacteria. Means the gram negative bacterias or the bacterias, they are more sensitive to pH, but mold and yeast can easily grow at lower temperature. Okay, the pH range of the growth for the mold is 1.5 to 9.0, and for yeast it is 2.0 to 8.5, and for the gram negative gram positive bacteria, they have 4 to 8.5, and for the gram negative bacteria they have the range that is 4.5 to 9.0. So based on the pH ranges, microorganism can be grouped as the follows. So the first one is your neutrophils, then is your acidophiles, and then is your alkaliphiles. So again it is very important to understand that depending upon the type or the pH range, microorganism, they are grouped under the following. The first is your neutrophiles. So the neutrophiles intrinsic factors or the pH, so they grow best at the pH or range of 5 to 8. Then acidophiles bacteria are those that grow at the pH range that is below 5.5, and alkaliphiles grow at the pH 8.5. So all these three are very important in MCQs. This question generally arises that neutrophiles microorganism grow at which temperature, so you must be aware of the temperature range. Similar case is with the acidophiles and alkali files. Now comes the water activity, that is AW. So water activity, it is the amount of water that is available for the biological functions which can be reduced by an osmotic effects. Water in the food is made available in various ways, such as solutes and ion tie up water in the solution, hydrophilic colloids, the water of crystallization, and hydration. So, what is water activity? So, water activities question generally comes, so you must be aware of what is it. So, it is the amount of water that are available for doing the biological functions. So the water that is used for the biological functions, and which can be reduced by what, which effect, by an osmotic effect, so that is known as water activity. Now comes the oxidation and reduction potential, that is EH. So the oxidation and reduction potential, or that is also known as redox potential of a substance, it is simply defined as the measurement of a transfer of electron between atoms and molecules. So whenever there is a transfer of electrons between the atoms and the molecules, so the measurement of the transfer of electron between atoms and molecule is known as redox potential, or you can simply say that it is an oxidation and reduction potential. So the oxidation and reduction potential, it is usually written as EH, that is this, and it is measured in which term? So it is measured in terms of milliwatt, that is MV. And the redox potential of food depends upon the pH of the food, means what is the pH value of the food. Then it depends upon the availability of oxygen, means the physical state and the packaging. Then poisoning capacity, or you can say buffering capacity. And the food composition, means the food composition, like food has which type of nutrients, like such as protein, ascorbic acid, and reducing sugar. So it depends upon that. So again, oxidation and reduction potential is again very much important for the exams and for the interviews as well. Now this slide is again one of the most important slide of today's lecture, that is the range at which, that is the oxidation and reduction range at which the different groups of microorganism can grow. So the first one is aerobes, second is facultative anaerobes, and the one is anaerobes. So aerobes are those microorganisms that can grow, or the aerobes contain includes those microorganisms that can grow best at plus 500 to plus 300 milliwatt, milliwatt, such as mold, yeast, bacillus, pseudomonas, moraxilla, or micrococcus. Then comes the facultative anaerobes. So they can grow plus minus 300 to 100 mv, such as lactic acid bacteria and those in the family of enterobacteriaceae. Then comes your anaerobes. So the anaerobes can grow best at plus 100 to minus 250 mv, or they have and they have lower range for the clostridium species. Then comes the nutrient content. Again, nutrient content is important for the microorganism, because microorganism needs nutrient like proteins, carbohydrates, sulfur, phosphorus, vitamins, lipid, water, energy, nitrogen, and minerals. And all these nutrients they need for their growth and to carry out their metabolic functions. So this nutrient content is very important for their metabolic function rate and for their growth. So food is the best source of nutrition for microbial growth, means food, because food includes all kinds of nutrients. So food is the best source for their nutrition in microorganisms for their microbial growth. So microorganisms that are commonly found in food, they vary greatly in nutrient requirement, and those which can utilize such nutrient in abundant number and are usually predominate in the food. Then comes the fifth point, that is the presence of antimicrobial constituents. So the various food have inherent antimicrobial component, and like different food have a inherent, means they themselves have the antimicrobial component, and they prevent the microbial attack of various foodborne pathogens. The food of plant and animal product contain the antimicrobial component. That is the reason in the whenever we purchase food item, we see that yes, this food has antimicrobial component. And then comes the biological structure. So some of the food have the biological structure, and these biological structure, they prevent the microbial entry, and the natural covering or protect from the damage and reduces the chance of microbial spoilage. So the biological structure, again, it is very important because it is they are avoiding or preventing the entry of microbes. And structures such as the outer covering of fruits, shell of nuts, and shell of eggs, meat has a fascia and skin that prevent the entry of foodborne pathogen and spoilage of microorganism. So every food item like that include fruits, so they have their outer covering that we see in bananas, we see in different types of fruits like mangoes. So these covering helps the to prevent the entry of foodborne pathogen. Similar cases with the vegetables also. So these covering what they are doing, so they are just preventing the entries of microbial pathogen. Okay. So that brings to the end of the lecture. I hope you have understood the lecture. This lecture is very important for the MCQs question and for the interviews process also. So you please go to the lecture, and if you find any queries or anything related to the lecture, so you can simply leave your queries and issues in the comment section below. I will be answering all the queries in the next lecture. You can follow ITLS Academy on different portal, and don't forget to subscribe ITLS Academy. You can also visit our website, that is www.itlsacademy.com, or you can simply call or message on this number, that is the our helpline number, that is 7080833450. So you can simply call on this number and get updated. And yes, don't forget to press the bell icon to get more lectures. And thank you for watching. Please do like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.